Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that have joined us this evening, you'll notice that you have unfortunately been muted. We are going to be hosting a webinar and presentation, so we kind of need to keep the room as silent as possible whilst we explain the journey, the elements, the steps. Just the overall presentation needs to go quite smoothly for everyone that's going to be joining us. For those that don't know me, my name is Sean Kupferberg. I am the Recruitment Director at New World Immigration and Recruitment. I will be co-hosting this with Debbie Down, who manages our case management division at New World Immigration. Debbie, thanks so much for joining us.
It's only a pleasure.
So as we wait for more families just to join us, I won't start the presentation just yet. So I'm just going to be waiting on a few more families to join us. But we've got some exciting guests that are also joining us this evening. I'll be introducing them to you shortly. They are candidates that we have also managed to work with, help and place in Australia. We're just actually busy with the paperwork at the moment. They are still in South Africa as we speak, but I'm very excited for them to share their experience, their journey, and where they're going to, which is going to be very cool. It's something that we hosted and did quite a number of years ago with a few teachers that are actually in Australia. I try to find a few electricians that would be able to join us that are in Australia, but the time zone would have been a bit difficult. It would be around 12 o'clock in Perth right now, which, wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, those that have just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending this evening. I will be your co-host with Debbie Down. My name is Sean Kupferberg. We have put together this exclusive webinar for electricians around the world that are looking to make the move to Australia. We want to try and understand the steps and give you insights on what's happening in different industries in Australia, why there's a demand, the steps we need to go through to get you guys across to Australia successfully. Just really capitalize on the demand that Australia has right now and will continue to have over the next 5 to 10 years. All right, so without further ado, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's webinar. Again, my name is Sean Kupferberg. I'll be co-hosting tonight's webinar with Debbie Down, who is our case management director, if you will, at New World Immigration. Debbie, thanks again for joining us. I'm super excited to co-host this webinar tonight.
Awesome stuff. Let's go.
Cool. So before we get started on tonight's webinar, I do want to make it very clear to those that have joined us that when it comes to any tradesmen, especially licensed trades guys, your electricians, your plumbers, your air conditioning and refrigeration technicians, any tradesman looking to make the move to Australia, irrespective of where you've come from, there has to be time, there needs to be commitment, and there is capital, there is money involved that one needs to invest to make this move possible. I'll explain to you why that is, but this presentation and tonight's webinar is not for those that are looking to get to Australia without putting time, effort, and money towards this particular process. Unfortunately, that process does not exist for an electrician looking to go to Australia. So if you're here looking for a free visa sponsorship and a free sort of pathway to get into Australia, I would not suggest continue watching. I don't want to come across as being rude, but I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste our time. I want to make sure that this is worth your while for the short and long term. Right. So now that I've got that awkward conversation out of the way, I will be moving forward to introduce you to a couple of lads that we have been working with over the last couple of weeks. Alan Muller is a South African electrician. He has been on board with us for a couple of weeks, And I invited Alan to tonight's webinar. He's actually away on leave at the moment. So Alan, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your holiday.
No problem. Thank you that I can be here. It's just a pleasure.
So Alan's a South African electrician, as I've mentioned, and we've put a lot of content out. We've shown that we've been working with a lot of South Africans, a lot of African or foreigners wanting to move to Australia. Alan reached out to us. He got in contact with one of our recruiters, Chanel, who started the immigration process with Alan. But a big point that I'd like for you maybe just to touch on, Alan, is what did you see that you thought that we were able to help you, and what has taken place since you have come on board with us?
Well, it was quite easy just to read the reviews about the company.
Yeah.
So all the reviews were very positive. But yeah, it is a bit stressful to go overboard, firstly. After the reviews, we've seen there's very happy people. Everything went well. I think even before the process started, I already had an interview. Fortunately for me, the interview went well, and yes, it's been basically a month now, and the process is going well. There's no hiccups, no problem. There's constant communication between me and the company, and help. So everything went well. There's just no hiccups. At this moment, as I said, the interview went well. We're just busy with the assessment and the visa at this moment.
Yeah, and Alan, if you could give the lads that have joined us this evening a bit of insight on the step that we had originally brought you on board for, and to understand that yes, you're qualified in South Africa, yes, you've had tons of work experience in industry, you've got references, you've got your qualification that's legit, you've taken the time and the hours and the years spent in order for you to get your qualification. You've got a fantastic CV. Why was that not necessarily good enough to get a sponsorship or your visa? Why is it so important to actually have this thing called a skills assessment?
Well, it's basically, according to me, it's basically like getting a trade in South Africa for me. The skills assessment, you're working with people's lives. You need to be qualified that side as well. You can't, like I said, you're working with people's life. Everything must be safe, and they put in quite a lot of effort getting you there.
Sure.
So they must know that you are qualified. You know your job. It's not an easy process getting you there. They're doing an investment into you, so you must be able to do the job there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just to touch on this, and I'm hoping that Francois Beekers and Davy Roberts would be joining us shortly, which I'm sure there will be, to give further insights on that. And when you've been qualified for as long as every single one of you have been, you sit and think, why must I go through this process? Why must I spend this time? Why must I spend this money in essentially going through a similar, not entirely, but a similar process of my trade to go and work in another country? And to highlight what Alan said, you've hit the nail on the head there. You're working on a very regulated, or working in a very regulated industry. You've got a lot of people around you, lives that are dependent on you doing the job right, health and safety aspects, knowledge of the trade, and a lot of money that's being invested in you being there. And without the skills assessment, it's impossible to bring someone across without this thing called a skills assessment, because you don't yet match the standards of what Australia ultimately requires. So we'll touch on exactly what that is. But Alan has, we've just submitted your paper-based assessment or your theory assessment, right?
Yeah, a week ago.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So we shouldn't wait too much longer, because we are exclusive partners with the assessing authority that's actually working on your paperwork. I'm in constant communication with the CEO of this assessing authority, Victoria, So I'm hoping that we'll get dates for your health and safety interview and your practical ASAP. So we've got that covered. And then, yeah, the moment we've got that, we can then, of course, submit your work permit, because the work permit is reliant on the skills assessment. So, Alan, thanks, mate. I really appreciate you joining us. Alan's actually on leave, as I've said. He's in Moloff Park. If you guys haven't been there, it is incredible. But thank you, Alan. Thank you so much.
That's not a problem at all.
Look forward to having another webinar in about a year's time from now, and showing a bit of videos and some photographs of you and the family in Australia, to those that are going to be starting their journey in a year from now. So thanks again. Have a lucky evening, and we'll be in touch.
All right, Sean. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers.
Thanks, Alan.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Right. So we'll be having a few more guys join us, such as Davy and Francois Beekers, which are South African guys that we've placed in Australia. But I want to give each and every one of you good insights on what's happening in Australia and why there's such a significant demand for electricians. Right. So over the next 4 to 5 years, Australia and all the sectors that employ electricians have estimated that they will need, across Australia, they'll need anywhere between 32 and 42,000 additional electricians to what they currently have in Australia at the moment. All right. If you try and fathom that idea, I don't even think you'll have 32,000 people that work on mines. So which I'm sure many of you have walked through a mine, there you might have like 10 or 15,000 people. 32,000 people is a lot of people. So just to put it out there, the demand is not going anywhere. The demand is only increasing. But the sooner you're able to get the ball rolling, the quicker you're going to be able to start building a foundation for yourself in Australia and start earning the tom and the money that a lot of the high-paying electricians are making on that side. So the critical workforce deficits, Australia is facing an unprecedented surge in demand for qualified electricians. Meeting targets in clean energy goals, regional infrastructure demands requires tens of thousands of skilled professionals that are needed to come into Australia. So when you're in the mining sector, solar, renewable energy, construction, domestic, and there's many other industries that employ FMCG, many other industries that employ electricians, the demand is there, ladies and gentlemen. To question yourself whether or not this is a good move, these are real stats. This is real data. As of yesterday, when I was putting this webinar together, there is currently 12,658 open vacancies for electricians. So is there demand? Will I find work? Will I find sponsorship? Well, the answer is right there. What's currently happening in various sectors? Australia has a housing crisis that they're trying to attend to as quick as possible, because Australia's population is increasing, and Australia's government and private sector has invested billions of dollars to build 1.2 million new homes over the next 5 years. And that's only in certain spots in Australia, let alone the amount of other investments that are taking place on other parts in Australia. I mean, they're going to need electricians for that, right? They're going to need plumbers. They're going to need bricklayers. They're going to need engineers. So the demand is there from a housing point of view. Renewable transmission, those guys in solar, those guys that are in high voltage, working on transformers, working on the mines, working in 5.0, the demand is certainly there. Large-scale battery storage demand, specializing in high voltage skills. If you're in that sector and you've worked and wanting to work in that particular sector, the demand in Australia is certainly there. And then, of course, the commercial expansion, heavy power AI data centers and major public mega projects like in Brisbane of 2032, especially with the Olympics that's coming up. and the Rugby World Cup next year, the demand is there. So again, ladies and gentlemen, is there demand? Would you find sponsorship? Again, the question is right there, or the answer, should I say, is right there. So one of the biggest questions for any electrician wanting to make the move to Australia: where do I start? What steps do I need to take? Do I need to apply for my visa first? Do I need to get a job offer first? Do I need to start getting my family's unabridged certificate sorted out? Well, yes, those points will be covered. At some point in time throughout the process, trust me, those points are going to be covered. But that's not your first thing, right? When building a house, the first thing that you're going to focus on is not the roof. We need to focus on the area and the foundation. The foundation will be your skills assessment. Now, we have a full in-house immigration team that Debbie manages that's co-hosting tonight's webinar. And our immigration team walks every single electrician through this process, starting off with your theory assessment. To put that in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, it's theoretical paperwork that we put together as evidence proving that you've been working as an electrician for more than 6 years, right? So we need to put together evidence. When you come on board with us as a client, your immigration team will help you prepare an entire theory assessment and all the evidence that we're going to need to put together to prove that you've been working as an electrician. So all the evidence will help you with that. Now, basically, those of you that heard Alan speak earlier on, we've just submitted his theory assessment. It's getting processed by a electrical body in Australia, which is done online through our company. And once we have the outcome of that, we are then able to book the next second and third step, which will be his technical interview, also known as a health and safety interview. Now, each and every one of you being electricians, health and safety is probably one of the most important aspects of your day-to-day. It's extremely, extremely important that Australia knows that no matter what you do, what industry you work in, your next step, if something has to potentially go wrong in your work environment, health and safety is the very first thing that you're going to tackle at the highest level possible. And the only way in which you're going to be able to work as an electrician in Australia is them knowing that your health and safety knowledge meets the standards of what Australia is looking for. And this is where the technical interview comes in. What that is, you will book an online meeting very similar to this, and there'll be 2 or 3 assessors online walking you through different scenarios, different questions, different points of what you would do in case something went wrong in a work environment. What particular instrumentation or tools you'd be working on, X, Y, and Z, depending on the industry you're in. So it's very, it's really a clinical assessment to know that your health and safety is right up there. Lastly would be the practical. Practicals, there are centers around the world. Many families travel down to Cape Town, South Africa to get it done. This is our main hosting center for anyone in Africa. Those of you that are joining us, like Justin Pollock, thanks for joining us, Matt. A lot of guys up in the UK that are electricians. There is a center up in the UK to facilitate this process, which we will be helping you with. But what that essentially is that you will book and pay for a practical interview where you will have 5 to maybe 15 other electricians in a workshop environment over a space of about 5 hours or so. And you'll know this well in advance. I'm not going to pick up the phone and say, hey, Timber, hey, Justin, hey, Jacques, you need to pack your toolkit. You need to be in Cape Town tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the morning, or you've lost this entire process. That's not the case. You will know weeks, if not 2 to 3 months in advance, to understand where that's going to be. You're able to arrange your travel arrangements, accommodation if that needs to be arranged for, or any tools and preparation that needs to take place before this practical. But what this really is that they'll be testing your hands-on technical knowledge through a workshop environment, focusing on the electrical aspects of your day-to-day. So they'll walk you through different jobs, different roles, whether it's single or three-phase. They'll be assessing you on various aspects of the practical knowledge of your trade. Once that process is done, chaps, you now have your Australian electrical license. Now, it doesn't give you a full Australian electrical license. It gives you a semi-license, which now allows you, which Alan and Francois, as well as Darby Roberts and a number of other electricians that we've also worked with and placed, they will have that paperwork and that document as if they've qualified in Australia, but that now allows them to process work permits, permanent residency, secure sponsorship opportunities, etc. It takes on average anywhere between maybe 3 and 4 months, on average 4 months, to go through step 1, 2, and 3. So if you're looking to get into Australia during the course of 2027, the most active time in the job market is usually in the beginning of your first quarter of the year. So if you're looking at that, I would suggest contacting your consultant, making contact with New World Immigration and our team, and we will take you through those 3 steps as quick as possible. Before I go any further, I just want to leave a link. So, gentlemen, if you go onto our chat section, I have left a webinar presentation link for you to, let me just get this right. I've just sent it now. It's an inquiry form. Please click on that inquiry form and fill out that information so we can get an up-to-date breakdown to ensure that you match the critical aspects of the theory, technical, and practical assessments before we bring you on board, before you start spending your hard-earned money towards this process and you commit your entire family and you're telling your wife you're going to Australia and it doesn't happen. Well, we all know what's going to happen then. So let's just make sure that we go through this assessment. Your consultant will walk you through this process, making sure that you match what Australia is going to be looking for, again, before you put your hard-earned money and time and effort toward this process. So please go ahead, fill in that link during this presentation or at the end of the presentation, and we will capture your info and make contact with you immediately after this.
Sean, Darby's in there. He's in.
Darby.
Let me unmute.
Thank you.
Let me see. It's not giving me. Okay, you're going to have to try. It's not giving me the option.
Ladies and gentlemen, Darby is a client of New World Immigration as well. He has also, actually, Darby lodged his work permit today. So very exciting. Darby, congratulations. We lodged his 494 today. Darby, thank you so much for joining us, Munia.
Hi, guys. How are you all doing tonight? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Loud and clear. Thank
Great.
you, Darby. Thanks so much for joining us. Just to give each and every one of you a bit of background, Darby is a South African electrician that's on his way to New South Wales, a town about 3 to 3.5 hours from Sydney itself. We lodged his work permit today. We're hoping that things will be finalized by the end of the year, depending on processing timeframes. But Darby, if you could give the guys on our webinar that's joined our webinar this evening just a bit of an understanding of what the critical aspects of the skill assessment is there, and what's your journey been like since you started this process?
Just to give the guys a bit of a background, we started in November with Sean and the team, and it was over Christmas time, so we were really busy, and I didn't get chance to get all my paperwork and everything ready. But in January, I took it head on, and we started gathering everything. And in April, I went to do my technical interview and my practical. So basically they just want to test you to see whether you do know what you are talking about and what you guys are doing day to day in the field. And they are really strict on safety. That I can tell you. We had one person that joined us in the skills assessment, which had to come back to redo his technical interview. So if I can give advice, guys, health and safety, that's your best way to go. Make sure you know everything that you do every day. It's not to say that you do it day to day, you know everything. You still learn everything. So yeah, my road has been up and down, stressful at sometimes, and then, like Sean said, we lodged our visa application this morning with Bronwyn, one of the
Case managers.
Yes. Thanks, Sean.
No worries.
With the guys at New World, I can promise you they will make sure you are ready before you go for anything. They send you all your information that you need. I got my skills assessment appointment 2 weeks before I went, and it was enough time to prepare. But yeah, it's been a long journey. Hopefully by early next year we will be in Oz if everything works out.
Absolutely, and certainly look forward to finalizing things with you, Darby. And I think for anyone going through this process, you certainly don't want to beat around the bush or sugarcoat it. You know, it is an emotional roller coaster. You feel highs and lows. It's not going to be a walk in the park. And look, let's face it, any move, even to another province, is not for everyone. Moving to another country and another continent with similar cultures but also very different cultures is not a walk in the park. So I'm glad you've mentioned that, and it's just the reality of immigration. This process is not for everyone, but putting your head down and getting through these stages, which will take you through, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It is an extremely rewarding process for electricians when they get to Australia.
Yeah, that's definitely, and to give some of the guys another piece of advice. When Sean and the guys talk to you, you can you can make sure you can listen. They will do everything in their whatever they can do. They will try everything to keep you as easy and as comfortable as possible.
Thank you for that, Darby. And for those that are married and those that have kids as well, there's a lot of dedication. There's a lot on your shoulders. And this isn't just about us bringing you on board, making an immigration payment come in and off you go, and you're just seen as a number. You're a family. I'm a father myself. I'm married. I know the weight on your shoulders when you're making this decision. We've had families that have gone through this process over 12 years since we've been in the industry. We've assisted over 7,500 families, and this is not me bragging. It's been a long time to get there. And the magnitude of weight that we have on our shoulders, knowing that we're doing this for you guys, is huge. But we're very passionate about it. We know the time and effort, and we respect what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, wanting to do this for your family. So, Darby, meneer, there's a big reason why we want to do it, and it's because you're doing what you're doing for your family. So the respect is mutual. Thank you.
No, definitely. Yeah, so it's this morning it felt like a mountain went off my shoulders.
No, good. Thank you so much. And as Darby is waiting on his visa, I'm going to be introducing him to so many other guys that are already working for the same business that he's going to be going to as well. I actually got in contact with Jason Berry, who's been there for a little over a year now. I chatted with him this morning, and he's absolutely loving it. He's a South African electrician as well. And he says, Sean, if anyone's coming over, introduce me to them. I'd love to tell them about what life's about here. So, Davy, I'll be introducing you to Jason Berry very soon, Martin Lawrence, and a number of other guys. So they're very excited to have you part of their team and have another South African join them.
Yeah, no, I think that is one of the other thing is if you have some of your own countrymen that side who you can relate to, that's also a big part of how you can go over. So we spoke to another oak that went to Crystal Springs. So yeah, they also excited. They're already there. So guys, what we are doing it basically just for our families, to give our families a better future. But to come back to your skills assessment, Sean, I just want to say, guys, once you receive your skills assessment, that's critical. You will not get anyone phoning you for work unless you have that piece of paper in your hand.
Yeah, it's thank you for that, Davy, and it's always a conversation that a lot of electricians are asking me about. I mean, it's a very popular question. You know, I've spent 10 years in my industry. I've built this, that, and the next thing. I've run my own business. I've made loads of money, you know, in the country that I'm in, and I'm qualified. Why must I have to go through this process? Well, all of that has happened outside of Australia. The point of this skills assessment is to make sure that you up here and here, as well as hands-on, can do what we need you to do in Australia. And you're quite right, Davy. So thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledgeable insights on your journey. And look forward to getting you to Australia real soon.
We're also looking forward. Thanks, Sean.
Perfect, meneer. Have yourself a lucky evening, and thanks again for everything.
Thanks, you as well.
Cheers.
Thanks, Davy.
Right, so the costs of the skills assessment, ladies and gentlemen. So your agent fee, beside the agent fee, you will have a theory assessment, technical interview, and practical. In most cases, these payments are made in separate stages. In a lot of cases, your theory assessment is paid once we've collected all the paperwork, which can take us anything between maybe a month and 2 months, maybe 3 months, depending on how active you are. And that cost is 1,280 Australian dollars. So wherever you're from, convert that from dollars to rands or whichever currency you're working with, whether it's British pounds or wherever you're based, and then you'll know the equivalent amount for that. Right. Your technical interview. The technical interview is set at $2,000 Australian dollars. So that's what you'd be paying for a technical interview. And in most cases, your practical is paid at the same time as your technical, which is currently set at around $2,200, if I'm not mistaken, Debbie. So that is what you would pay the assessing authority, which we will walk you throughout this process, as and when those particular payments are made. You'll only be making those particular payments when you're ready for that phase and when we are mentally prepared and financially prepared for that particular process as well. So we'll walk you through that process quite nicely. The agent fee, so New World Immigration's agent fee is currently set at 25,000 Rand, or around about 2,300 Australian dollars. So that is what we charge as an agent to walk you through this particular process, making sure you get the documents that you're paying for at the end of this process. Right, so those are the overall rates of what you would cover when it comes to the skills assessment. Oh, and before I go any further, the skills assessment, chaps, is that it's not only just to get you into Australia and to land a job and to, look for sponsorship opportunities. It's also needed to get permanent residency. So you guys aren't just looking to get this process and then come back after a couple of years, right? This process will be requested when you're applying for permanent residency as a family. It is valid for 3 years. So our intention is to get you permanent residency anywhere between 2 and 3 years of you being in Australia, if not faster. Right, so some interesting insights on job salaries across Australia. Now, bear in mind that it is dependent on work experience, sector, as well as where in Australia you're going to be going. So salaries can range by quite a lot, which is probably similar in South Africa in many ways. But yeah, to give you an idea, standard role salary can run anywhere between 95 and 115. Once you get into Australia and you start building up local Australian experience, that will then go up to anywhere between 140 and 220. That happens a lot faster than what you'd think, ladies and gentlemen, especially us Africans. We are thick-skinned, we are thick-boned, and we know what we're doing. We are going there with a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowledge. We come from a continent where we have no choice but to think outside the box, to think critically, think very carefully, and health and safety is also very up there as far as South Africa is concerned. So you'll be very quick to see how your salary increases within a very short space of time. So that just gives you a bit of insight on various salaries, and as again you'll see that it will range on a scale dependent on different factors. Just a quick reminder of that link, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be copying and pasting it in the chat again. Please go ahead and fill in that quick summary. So we've got your information. We know more about your background and making sure that you qualify for the skills assessments and sponsorship opportunities. Once we have captured your information, we will then book a one-on-one electrical trade consultation with you. And if your spouse would like to join us with your child, please bring them in. We want to meet them. We want to have a conversation with them. We want to know who we are potentially sending to Australia. So let's sit down, let's have a cup of coffee, let's arrange a consult between your consultants or me or whoever's working with you, and we'll have a one-on-one with you and you will, as well as us as recruiters. Once we've brought you on board, you've covered the agent fee, we will activate your online portal, which you will be given access to. You'll then be able to submit your paperwork, your apprenticeship papers, your qualifications, the evidence of work experience, and we would then submit your stage 1 skills assessments, prepare for the technical interview and your practical. I will be introducing you guys to other South African or other electricians that have made the move to Australia to effectively help you brush up on areas that you might need assistance with. I might phone up Davy. Davy, Jacques needs help. Themba needs help. Let's give him a ring. Let's brush him up on some of the things. I'm pretty certain any candidate that we've helped in the past has never said no. And there probably might be one day. I don't know. But it's been a pretty good run so far. So we'll be introducing you to a lot of guys that have made the move across. Your spouses that might need a bit of guidance and assistance, I'll introduce you to their wives, just so that you're building a good network before you land in Australia, which I find very, very important to ensure that you land in Australia on good grounding and you can hit the ground running. Our recruitment efforts won't just start the moment you have done your skills assessments. Our recruitment efforts, which is a department I run with Chanel as well as Danielle, we will be working hand in hand with you in looking at key locations, key sectors, and key employers that are offering opportunities to you guys. So as we go through the skills assessment, we'll be working hand in hand with you guys in monitoring exactly what is out there and what opportunities are available to you. Once you have had a successful interview, we will then walk you through the process of what visa you're going to be going over on, what income is going to look like, what your package overall is going to look like, the commitments that you might need to make on your end to offset the overall investments and risk that a business would need to take. I'll explain that to you in a bit more detail, and your consultants may be able to explain that in a bit more detail for you guys. This sounds like I've been rambling, and it sounds like it's been a lot of information. So, guys, this is honestly an exciting journey. It really is quite something to see what the foreign electricians have been able to do for themselves in Australia. We've got another chap who's actually placed in the solar sector. He works in Perth. He's never owned a fishing boat in his life in South Africa. His childhood dream was to have an ocean fishing boat. He now owns one. It might sound silly to some, but it's a childhood dream that he's been able to do and get himself. And you know, what you're able to do for yourself, the saving, the investments, the travel, you know, being able to buy a house. I've got a client who's been in Perth as well for 2.5 years. They've just bought their second house. He's an electrician, South African guy as well. These are things that many electricians aren't able to experience in many of the countries that you're in at the moment. Australia will be able to do this for you. Let's get started with the process. Leave an inquiry, complete the form with us. Let's make contact with you. Let's get that one-on-one going. We'll send you a comprehensive breakdown of the costs involved, and we'll get this journey started with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I keep saying ladies and gentlemen. Most of you are gentlemen. I don't know, this day and age, a lot of people don't know whether they're gentlemen or ladies. I don't know, something strange going on. But gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a hell of a pleasure hosting you. And thank you, Debbie, for being with us, as well as the guys, Alan and Darby. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a lucky evening. Have a good evening. And we look forward to helping you.